American families are spending over $4,000 a year on healthcare costs that their great-grandparents quietly handled with plants growing right outside their doors. Not because those ancestors were lucky, because they knew something that was never passed down to you. 9 healing herbs used every single day for thousands of years quietly disappeared from the American home, the moment the supplement industry decided they were worth more in a bottle than in a garden. If you are in your 50s or 60s and something about that feels deeply wrong, stay with me. One herb on this list was once called the original aspirin, and it is still growing in fields across America right now. Welcome to Natural Verge, where ancient plant wisdom meets practical modern living. Today, we are breaking down 9 healing herbs forgotten by modern medicine that your ancestors used every single day. Subscribe now. This channel delivers real plant knowledge every week, built for Americans who want honest answers. And stay through this entire video, because one herb near the end will completely change how you think about pain relief. Here is what most Americans quietly assume, that if something genuinely worked, modern medicine would have kept it. That assumption sounds logical, but it ignores one important fact. Profitability, not effectiveness, decides what gets passed forward. These 9 herbs were not abandoned because they stopped working. They were abandoned because you cannot patent a plant. American households in the early 20th century kept herbal knowledge the way they kept recipes passed from hand to hand, season to season. That chain broke. What you are about to hear is not alternative medicine. It is the original medicine, explained carefully and honestly, so you can decide what actually makes sense for your life. Every herb in this list is evaluated on 4 points: what it actually does, how ancestors prepared it, why it disappeared, and what it is realistically worth to an American household today. Most Americans who have seen yarrow growing wild along a roadside have walked right past it, and that decision has a real cost. Yarrow, known botanically as Achillea millefolium, has been used for over 3,000 years as a first response wound herb, fever reducer, and digestive support plant. The name Achillea itself comes from the legend that Achilles used it to treat his soldiers' wounds on the battlefield. That is not mythology, it is a reflection of how deeply this plant was trusted by people whose lives depended on getting results. Ancestors applied fresh chewed yarrow leaves directly to cuts and wounds to slow bleeding. Hot yarrow tea was the standard approach for breaking fevers before synthetic fever reducers existed. What most Americans get wrong about yarrow today is assuming that because it grows wild, it must be weak. The opposite is true. Wild harvested yarrow is often more potent than commercially dried versions sitting in supplement store shelves at $12 to $18 per small packet. You can grow your own yarrow from seed for under $3 per packet, and one planting produces harvests for years. Yarrow grows reliably across USDA zones 3 through 9, making it practical from the upper Midwest and Northeast all the way through the South and Pacific Northwest. Look for the variety Achillea millefolium in white, or the cultivar called Cerise Queen for slightly more ornamental value with identical medicinal properties. The one mistake most people make with yarrow is harvesting too late. Once the flower heads begin browning, the medicinal potency drops significantly. Harvest when the flowers are freshly open, dry them in a single layer, and store in a sealed glass jar away from direct light. Yarrow is not the most dramatic herb on this list, but what comes next has been called the medicine chest of the entire countryside, and for good reason. Most Americans spend between $20 and $40 every cold season buying elderberry products from supplement stores, without realizing that the same plant producing those results can be growing in their own backyard for almost nothing. European folk medicine called elderberry the medicine chest of the countryside, not as a compliment, but as a description. A single elder shrub was expected to provide immune support, respiratory relief, and fever management across an entire household for an entire season. Modern research has begun catching up with what those households already knew. Clinical studies have shown elderberry preparations can meaningfully reduce the duration and severity of cold and flu symptoms, yet it is still routinely dismissed as old wives' remedy by Americans who have never been shown the evidence. Elderberry syrup made at home from 1 cup of dried elderberries, water, honey, and basic spices cost roughly $4 to $6 to produce, compared to $25 to $40 for commercial versions at Whole Foods or natural grocery chains. That is a real saving of over $200 across a single winter season for a family of 4. Elderberry grows across USDA zones 3 through 9. In the Northeast and Upper Midwest, the native Sambucus canadensis performs exceptionally well. For warmer regions, including the South and Gulf Coast, Sambucus nigra adapts readily. The one mistake most Americans make with elderberry is using raw berries. Raw elderberries contain compounds that cause nausea and digestive distress. Always cook elderberries before consuming. Simmer them for at least 15 minutes before making syrup, and the issue disappears entirely. Growing your own elder shrub from a cutting costs under $10 at most native plant nurseries, and a single established shrub can produce enough berries for a full season of household immune support within 2 years. What comes next spent 2,000 years being known by a name that sounds impossible, knitbone, and the reason that name existed is genuinely worth understanding. Most Americans who have heard the word comfrey associate it with a caution warning and stop there, which means they have completely abandoned one of the most practically useful topical healing plants in the entire herbal tradition. The caution around comfrey is real but specific. It applies to internal consumption of large quantities over extended periods. The topical use of comfrey, which is how it was used for over 2,000 years across Europe and Western Asia, carries no such concern and remains genuinely valuable. Comfrey earned the name knitbone for a straightforward reason. It was the herb people reached for when bones, joints, sprains, and bruises needed to heal faster. The active compound responsible is allantoin, a naturally occurring substance that accelerates cell regeneration and tissue repair. A fresh comfrey leaf poultice applied to a bruise or sprained joint produces visible results within 48 hours, for many users not as a miracle, but as a predictable outcome of allantoin doing what it does. Commercial comfrey salves at natural health stores run between $14 and $22 for a small tin. Making your own comfrey-infused oil at home by packing fresh leaves into a jar with olive oil and allowing 4 to 6 weeks of cold infusion costs under $3 in materials. Comfrey grows across USDA zones 3 through 9 and thrives in the Northeast, Midwest, and Pacific Northwest without any special treatment. The Bocking 14 variety is preferred by experienced growers for its high allantoin content and strong root system. The one mistake most Americans make with comfrey is discarding the plant entirely based on internal use warnings that do not apply to topical preparations. Use it externally. Respect it the way ancestors did. The next herb on this list was grown in nearly every colonial American garden, not for beauty, but because it handled more everyday household needs than almost any other plant of its era. Most Americans buying commercial skin creams for minor burns, rashes, and wound care are paying $8 to $25 per tube for synthetic formulations, while the plant that outperforms most of them on gentleness and multifunction value grows happily in backyard gardens across the entire country for about $2 per seed packet. Calendula officinalis was not grown in colonial American gardens for decoration. It was the household skin and wound herb the first thing reached for when a child scraped a knee, when a burn needed soothing, or when a wound needed help closing cleanly. Its anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and antiviral properties are not marketing language. They are the reason this plant earned such a consistent reputation across Mediterranean, European, and early American domestic traditions. Calendula-infused oil made at home costs under $4 in materials and serves as the base for salve, compress, lip balm, and skin treatment that a household can use across an entire season. Comparable commercial calendula products at Whole Foods or natural pharmacy chains run from $16 to $35 for small quantities. The annual savings for a family that grows and processes their own calendula realistically exceed $150 per year. Calendula grows in USDA zones 2 through 11, meaning it performs in virtually every American state. In the South and Gulf Coast, it grows as a cool season annual. In the Northeast and Midwest, it thrives through summer. The Resina variety is specifically selected for highest medicinal resin content. The Pacific Beauty strain offers slightly more visual impact while maintaining practical value. The one mistake most Americans make with calendula is harvesting flowers only once. Calendula blooms continuously if deadheaded regularly, meaning a single planting produces fresh medicinal flowers from early summer through first frost. The herb coming next has a sleep-related reputation that most Americans have heard, but almost none of them know what ancestors actually discovered it was capable of beyond that single use. Most Americans who know valerian root know it as a sleep herb and then dismiss it as something mild, natural, and probably not effective enough to matter. That dismissal is costing them real money and real rest. Valerian root has been used as a sedative in nervine since ancient Greek and Roman times, not as a gentle relaxant, but as the primary solution for serious insomnia, anxiety, and nervous tension in populations that had no pharmaceutical alternative and needed something that actually worked. The active constituents in valerian root, including valerianic acid and a group of compounds called valproates, interact with the same GABA receptors in the brain that prescription sleep medications target, but without the dependency risk and next-day cognitive fog that those medications commonly produce. A 1-month supply of commercial valerian capsules at a natural health store runs between $14 and $28. A single valerian plant in your garden produces roots harvestable in the second year that can be dried and prepared as tea or tincture at a fraction of that cost, and that same plant self-seeds and returns season after season with almost no maintenance. Valerian grows across USDA zones 4 through 9, performing reliably in the Northeast, Midwest, and Pacific Northwest without special protection. The straight species Valeriana officinalis is the standard medicinal choice. There are no meaningful cultivar differences for medicinal purposes. The one mistake most Americans make with valerian tea is expecting an immediate knockout effect. Valerian works best as a consistent nightly ritual over 2 to 4 weeks, not as a one-time emergency sleep solution. The results build gradually and they hold. If you are someone in your 50s or 60s who has quietly accepted poor sleep as simply part of getting older, this plant deserves a genuine trial before that assumption becomes permanent. We are now at the halfway point of this video, and what is coming in the second half includes an herb so deeply forgotten that most Americans have never heard its name at all, despite its 2,000-year history in European medicine. You have just covered 5 herbs, and each one has a real dollar value, a real preparation method, and a real reason it disappeared from the American home that had nothing to do with whether it worked. The 4 herbs coming in this second half are where this video gets genuinely surprising. One of them is still called a weed across most of the country, despite being used medicinally across 3 separate continents for thousands of years. One of them was named after a figure from ancient Greek mythology. And the herb I mentioned at the very start of this video, the one that will change how you think about pain relief, is coming up very soon. Right now, drop your state in the comments. Your USDA zone completely changes which of these herbs performs best where you live, and I will keep calling out specific zones through the rest of this video. If you are in your 50s or 60s and this kind of knowledge is exactly what you have been looking for, hit subscribe. Natural Verge is free, and it always will be. Most Americans have never heard the word Elecampane, and that is perhaps the clearest proof of how completely a 2,000-year medicinal tradition can vanish within a single generation. Elecampane, known botanically as Inula helenium, takes its name from Helen of Troy. Ancient accounts suggest she was carrying armfuls of this plant when Paris abducted her, which gives some sense of how highly it was valued in the ancient world. Its primary traditional role was respiratory, specifically supporting the lungs through chronic coughs, bronchial congestion, and what older herbalists called weak lung conditions. The root contains a compound called aniline, not to be confused with insulin, which also acts as a prebiotic, supporting healthy gut bacteria in a way that most people consuming Elecampane historically never fully understood but benefited from nonetheless. American households dealing with lingering winter coughs and chronic respiratory discomfort spend an average of $40 to $80 per season on over-the-counter expectorants and cough products. A homemade Elecampane root syrup prepared by simmering dried root with water and honey costs under $6 to make and provides a traditional expectorant preparation that supported respiratory health in European and Central Asian households across centuries. Elecampane grows across USDA zones 3 through 8, performing reliably in the Northeast, Upper Midwest, and cooler Pacific Northwest regions. It prefers moist, moderately rich soil and reaches 4 to 6 feet in height, making it a visually striking addition to a functional home garden. The straight species Inula helenium is the standard medicinal choice. The one mistake most Americans make with Elecampane is using only the flowers, which are decorative, rather than the root, which is where the medicinal value resides. Harvest roots in the second autumn of growth for maximum potency. The next herb on this list was once considered a nuisance weed across America, which is one of the more expensive misidentifications in American garden history. Most American homeowners spend money every season trying to remove burdock from their property, while traditional herbalists across Europe Asia, and Native American cultures have spent thousands of years specifically cultivating it. That single fact captures exactly how thoroughly the knowledge chain broke in the 20th century. Burdock root, known botanically as Arctium lapa, holds one of the longest and most geographically diverse medicinal records of any plant in the herbal tradition. It was used across European folk medicine for liver support and blood cleansing, across Chinese traditional medicine for skin conditions and inflammatory states, and across several Native American nations for kidney support and general detoxification. The active compounds in burdock root, including arctigenin, anulan, and a range of antioxidant polyphenols, support liver function, promote healthy skin from within, and act as a prebiotic for gut bacteria in ways that modern nutritional science is only beginning to formally document. In Japan, burdock root is eaten as a regular food under the name gobo, sliced thin, stir-fried, and served as a standard vegetable side dish that costs roughly $4 per portion at Japanese grocery stores. American specialty health food stores sell dried burdock root at $12 to $20 per small package. Growing your own, which requires nothing more than deep, loose garden soil and patience, costs almost nothing beyond the initial seed packet. Burdock grows across USDA zones 3 through 10, making it viable from the Northeast and Upper Midwest through the South and Pacific Northwest. The straight species Arctium lapa is standard. For American gardens, the Takanagawa long variety is preferred for its longer, straighter root that is significantly easier to harvest. The one mistake most Americans make with burdock is harvesting in the second year. When the plant has already redirected energy into seed production, first-year roots, harvested in autumn, hold the highest medicinal and nutritional value. The herb coming next carried one of the most important names in the entire history of plant-based pain relief, and the story of how it became invisible in the American medicine cabinet is worth understanding completely. At the very beginning of this video, I mentioned one herb that would completely change how you think about pain relief. This is it. White willow bark salix alba is the original aspirin, not a metaphor, not a loose comparison. The synthetic aspirin tablet that became one of the most consumed pharmaceuticals in American history was directly derived from salicin, a compound found in the bark of the white willow tree. Aspirin's chemical name, acetyl salicylic acid, carries the Latin root of salix, the willow, because that is exactly where it came from. Human beings used white willow bark for pain relief, fever reduction, and inflammation management for over 3,500 years before a German chemist synthesized its active compound in 1853, and the pharmaceutical industry turned it into a product it could manufacture, patent, and sell. The practical difference between white willow bark tea and commercial aspirin comes down to speed and gentleness. Synthetic aspirin works faster. White willow bark works more slowly but is considerably gentler on the stomach lining because the natural tannins present in the bark moderate the absorption of salicin in ways that isolated acetyl salicylic acid does not. For Americans in their 50s and 60s who have been advised to take daily low-dose aspirin but experience stomach irritation, that distinction matters. White willow grows across USDA zones 4 through 9, found naturally along waterways throughout the Northeast, Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, and Pacific Northwest. Established trees are available from native plant nurseries for $15 to $40. Bark is harvested in spring from young branches, never stripping the main trunk, dried and prepared as a decoction by simmering for 20 minutes. The one mistake most Americans make is expecting white willow bark tea to act as fast as a synthetic tablet. It does not. Allow 45 to 60 minutes and assess from there. The last herb on this list is the quietest one, and it may be the most immediately practical plant you can grow in any American home garden starting this season. Most Americans who grow lemon balm grow it because it smells pleasant and seems harmless, which means they are dramatically underusing one of the most practical medicinal herbs in the entire Mediterranean tradition. Lemon balm, Melissa officinalis, has been used since ancient Greece for anxiety, nervous tension, sleep quality, digestive upset, and mood, and it was valued not as a mild background herb, but as a primary solution for conditions that seriously affected daily life and function. The word Melissa in Greek means honeybee. The plant was historically associated with calmness, sweetness, and the peaceful productivity of a well-ordered hive. That is not accidental. Lemon balm contains rosmarinic acid and a group of flavonoids that interact with GABA receptors in the brain, the same calming pathway that valerian root engages, producing a gentle but measurable reduction in anxiety and nervous tension that makes it one of the few herbs where the traditional reputation and the emerging biochemical explanation genuinely align. For Americans dealing with daily stress, mild anxiety, or difficulty unwinding in the evening, lemon balm tea, made from fresh garden-grown leaves, costs essentially nothing beyond the initial plant, which runs $3 to $5 at any garden center and spreads generously once established. Comparable commercial lemon balm supplements run $12 to $22 per month. Lemon balm grows across USDA zones 4 through 9, thriving in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, Midwest, South, and Pacific Northwest, with very little care required. The Quedlinburger Niederliegen variety is preferred for highest rosmarinic acid content. The standard species Melissa officinalis performs well in all American home gardens. The one mistake most Americans make with lemon balm is drying it at too high a temperature. The volatile oils that carry both the fragrance and a significant portion of the medicinal activity are heat sensitive. Dry at room temperature in a shaded, well-ventilated space, and the quality difference is immediately noticeable. Think of one person in your life who is quietly struggling with stress or poor sleep and has spent too much money on products that deliver too little. Send them this video right now, not a message, just the link. That one action could genuinely change what they reach for next. We are not ending here. You can choose every herb on this list correctly and still fail if you do not know these 3 things. First, storage destroys what harvesting built. Most Americans who dry their own herbs store them in clear glass jars in direct sunlight on a kitchen shelf. That is one of the fastest ways to destroy medicinal potency. Every dried herb in this video must be stored in sealed glass or tin in a dark location at stable room temperature. Potency degrades measurably within 90 days of improper storage, and many Americans are drinking herbal tea from material that has lost most of its active value before the jar is even half empty. Second, single herb thinking misses the full picture. Ancestors did not use one herb for one problem. They combined herbs in intentional ways: Yarrow with elderberry during cold season, Valerian with lemon balm for evening calm, Burdock with Calendula for skin-related conditions. Starting with 2 or 3 complementary herbs produces more meaningful results than rotating through 9 of them in isolation. Third, patience is the missing ingredient that no label includes. These herbs work on timescales that modern pharmaceutical expectations do not prepare you for. Valerian requires 2 to 4 weeks of consistent use. Burdock requires 2 to 3 months of regular consumption before liver and skin effects become noticeable. Elecampane root needs weeks of respiratory support before chronic conditions begin shifting. If you stop after 5 days and decide it does not work, you have not tested the herb, you have tested your patience. Test the herb properly. Now, where to actually start? If you have never grown or used medicinal herbs before, begin with lemon balm and calendula. Both are forgiving, fast establishing, visually rewarding, and immediately useful. Both perform across nearly every American USDA zone. Both cost under $5 to get started. Those 2 plants alone, properly grown and stored, give a first-time herbal household more practical value than most supplement store purchases in an average year. If you have been gardening for years and want to add serious medicinal depth, add Yarrow, elderberry, and valerian root. All 3 are perennial or self-sustaining. All 3 have the broadest traditional use records on this list. All 3 perform reliably across USDA zones 3 through 9. If your goal is specifically pain and inflammation support, build around white willow bark, Comfrey topically, and Yarrow. That combination covers pain relief, topical tissue healing, and fever and inflammation management, the 3 most immediate physical support needs that drove ancestral herbal practice for thousands of years. Every like on this video tells YouTube that this information is worth showing to other Americans who need it. If this was useful, press like now. Drop your state and the one herb you are starting with in the comments. I read every one, and I will keep calling out specific zones in every video. Think of one person in your life who is still spending money every season on products that never fully deliver. Send them this video right now. Not a message, just the link. You just received zone-accurate, dollar-grounded, research-based herbal knowledge that most channels never put in one place. That is what every natural Verge video delivers. Subscribe now and turn on the bell. The next one is already coming.